I'm Scott Allen Miller. It is the 4th of January, 2020. This is Sheep Guarding Llama, the daily vlog. Let's do it. It is Saturday. I worked late last night, as I do, and of course, salespeople came to the door before 10 o'clock this morning and woke me up because everyone else in the house was either playing video games or working in the kitchen or something and couldn't hear the doorbell. So first they rang the doorbell, then they knocked on the door, made it seem like there was actually an emergency. So I jump out of bed, get dressed, run to the door, and then there's salespeople out there, which is just, it's completely rude. And they've been here before. It was Spectrum salespeople, and they know we're not interested, which means they are not allowed to keep soliciting at our house. We don't have a no solicitor sign, so they can come the first time, but they've done that more than once. We've told them that we're not interested, and yet they return, which specifically violates the city of Carrollton's peddling laws, because I looked it up today. And so I'm not happy about that. It's completely obnoxious. And they knew I was upset and still tried to come to the door to harass me. Not at all happy. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. I tried to reach out to the Carrollton police. I don't want to call 911 for something like that, but I was hoping there was some way to report to the police that there were peddlers to go look for, and they didn't have anything obvious. So not sure what to do about that. But so that was my rude start to the day and made me very unhappy with Spectrum, enough to mention it multiple times and on the site. I went and worked for a little bit. Dominica was doing dishes, so I maybe an hour. But then she wanted to put away Christmas decorations, so I had to go out to the garage and bring in all the Christmas boxes. And then Paul wanted to work on the garage, so we ended up by somewhere between 11 and 12 going out and starting to like really work on moving stuff around in the garage. And that turned into a 2 to 3 hour project. Dominica came out as well, and went up to the attic, and we opened up the garage door and took, like, every time we'd find like a box we didn't need or anything, we just throw it out the garage door, and we started making piles of stuff to donate, which took up a ton of room. Like, we're like shoving everything into corners, and then as soon as there was enough room in the attic, we started taking stuff from the garage that's supposed to go up there and lifting it up into the attic. So by the time we were done, we cleared out a really good portion of the attic, and we got stuff moved from the garage up to the attic, and all kinds of stuff moved out. So the garage is, we emptied more than half of it, maybe 2/3 of it. And some of the stuff that's in there now is like filing cabinets and a lot of paperwork that we have to keep that's really heavy and can't be taken up to the attic. So that's not going anywhere, but at some point it's just going to be thrown away. So we got a pretty good start. And, the shelves, there's a lot of things that can't go up to the attic. So the garage is actually in decent shape. We still got a few things we got to go through. It's far from done, but we can move around in there. We can store things out there. We can stack things. We can start to put in like real shelves and repair stuff and organize what's there. So that's really good. And the attic is now holding actual stuff that we care about, mostly stuff that's going into deep storage. Laserdiscs, CDs, all of those are up there. DVDs have not gone up yet. They're going to take a little bit longer because we're going to do some stuff with them. But those are going to be making their way up there eventually. All of our old video games that we just keep in boxes. Some of that stuff we probably should get rid of. Are we really going to ever listen to those CDs? Are we ever going to use those Laserdiscs? Are we ever going to play those video games? Probably not. In fact, I know we're not. But at some level, that they don't take up that much space, and I can't let go of them. They were such a huge portion of my life, and the Laserdisc might go on a shelf someday and be like this really cool antique thing. They're not, but they could, right? And maybe the kids will find it interesting to look at them, and we can talk about what movies I used to own. We won't, but we could. It's hard to get rid of the amount of investment and what a significant portion of my life those things were. It's hard to take, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars of movies and songs, and decide to get rid of them. And there are reasons legally to keep them. The government's never going to come after us because we have copies of music. Like, that was a thing a long time ago. That doesn't exist anymore, as far as I know. But, by keeping all those CDs, it means we can have MP3s of those CDs. And if they were to come after us, we would just say, here's the CD. We own it. We're allowed to do this. And they're like, oh, you own 10,000 CDs? Crap, right? But we do, an attic full of them. But they're not really worth anything. Nobody wants them. The effort to convert them to MP3 and be usable would be just astronomical. I don't know. But there's a lot of great music up there and stuff that's not widely available. I had a pretty epic collection. It's really something. So I don't know. But it doesn't take up a lot of space in the attic. And now that we've compressed it down to tight boxes, we know where they are and they're all up in the attic. Now it can be stored more or less indefinitely, and it's not a problem. So if you're watching this long after I'm gone, kids, chances are the CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, and laserdiscs, the back when we had media for stuff, all of that was kept, and it's extremely unlikely it'll ever go away. So chances are it's still sitting around somewhere, and it's pretty historic. And it's interesting because it tells a lot about my life. Almost all of it's mine. Dominica had a handful of CDs, no Laserdiscs, a handful of DVDs, and no Blu-rays. So you can tell from those pretty much where they came from. Plus, if she does have CDs, they're all like either 80s pop or 70s rock, stuff I probably would never own, right? Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, I might own some of those. Bon Jovi, I own a couple, but she owns a lot, right? Like hers are very specific to that stuff. Mine's everything else, right? Anything classical, anything jazz, anything new age, anything esoteric. Those are all mine. We both did own country, but most of it's mine. Anything that isn't a really big artist, probably mine. And any that aren't scratched. Hers are all in rough shape. Mine are pristine. Every single one of them. The cases are pristine, the inserts are pristine, and the discs are certainly without scratch or even a smudge. Not a one, ever. I took absolutely great care of those. I started collecting when I was 12 years old. Got my first CD player, and my first CD was Amy Grant, Christmas. Dad picked it up for me. I had a Sony 5-disc changer, and that was this unbelievable beginning of my kind of music collecting career. And all through high school and like college age, I did so much to manage getting CDs at really good prices, and every bit of money that I earned doing anything, that's where it went. I invested in the ultimate music library. Horrible investment, terrible decision making on my part. We had no idea of how streaming music and all that kind of stuff would happen in the future. We didn't have the internet back then. The idea that there would be any other way to have music never occurred to anybody. So owning those CDs because they didn't deteriorate was this, to me, was this great investment. I was going to want to have this music for the rest of my life. And yeah, they might come up with higher quality things than CDs, high audio quality CDs, SD CDs, like whatever that they came up with later, DVD audio. But it seemed like owning all this music was going to be the only way to keep it. And I thought I was going to be able to pass this on to my children. And of course I can, right? They're not going to go away. But there's no reason to own all those CDs anymore. And my kids don't really care about having that music for the most part. So that was a really bad idea, especially when almost all that music, like now, if I want to listen to one of those songs, I might want to listen to, and this happened the other day, hanging out with Rachel, and she's like, I don't know the album Among My Swans by Mazzy Star. So we just popped on, Pandora, Spotify, one of those things, and just play. And we listened to it. Right? Well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go up into the attic, find that CD, bring it down, rip it to something, and then play it on something. We don't even have a stereo hooked up. We've not had a stereo hooked up the entire time we've had kids, which is terrible on its own because we own 2 really nice stereos, an Onkyo and a Marantz. Plus, we have like a Rotel with Marantz monoblocks. So really, we have like 3 or 4 complete, really nice stereo systems that range from like pretty nice to like really incredible. We own really nice speakers, and none of it's ever been hooked up. The kids have never experienced like really great music. Everything's always just TV audio or like the Amazon Alexa audio, which is not terrible, but it's nothing like what we used to have. And it's just, listening to music has gone downhill so much since I was younger. I don't think my kids will ever really appreciate just how much music was a part of our lives, and the good stereos were a part of our lives, and how good it could sound, and like, rattling the windows and pure crystal clear audio. All that's lost. And even when they watch movies, they don't get that effect, right? It's still just TV audio, like, I can't quite hear what they're saying. And when I was 19 and had laser discs with CD quality audio, we'd have that cranked up, and it would be like a movie theater, except with crystal clear audio, not with the muffled that you get in a movie theater. And it sounded so good, and you could hear every bit of dialogue, you could hear every little movement in the movie. That was something we were really into. That was a big thing in the early 90s, mid 90s. And now it's like, just put a sound bar in your TV and try not to, be able to not hear things over like the laundry running or whatever. Like our approach to audio has changed so dramatically in those years. That's sad. So that was something. And then, so a lot of the stuff coming down from the attic was all memories, for the most part, of when Liesel was a baby, just because of the time of where we lived and how old the kids were. And obviously, Liesel had a lot more stuff because Chana got a lot of hand-me-downs. So the attic was just packed full of Liesel baby and toddler stuff, most of which she didn't remember. So it wasn't a big deal to get rid of it because she's like, who cares? Like, I don't even remember that stuff. But for us, it was, her rocking chair, her rocking horse that she used to play on, her little horse scooter that she used to scoot around the house, her potty training chair that you would sit on or whatever it was, like must be a feeding chair. Her original wooden Dora desk, her and Luciana's little plastic lap desks from Dora the Explorer, that both of them, they had a pink one and a blue one that they used for years, until just a couple, like maybe a year or two ago, they were still using them. They would eat on them, they would do crafts on them, they use those constantly. Toys and just all kinds of things, one thing after another would come down from the attic, and it's sad because there's no more little kids, and we can't store that stuff for grandkids. Like, it's completely impractical. So almost all of it went to donation. A little bit is going down to Houston for Reagan, but pretty much it was just very sad seeing, because our Liesel's all grown up, and that stuff is long past, and it, at the time, and this happens with everything, you think, oh, we're going to get this table, this Dora desk, and it's going to be used and just going to get so much use out of it. And I'm sure she did. I'm sure she got plenty of use out of it. But it's like she hasn't looked at that desk in so many years. It's like, how long ago did that stop being remembered? Right? It's really weird. And, now one of the things we're putting up into the attic is a lot of toys, Calico Critters and Playmobil, and we didn't put Lego stuff up there. And I talked about this on Christmas, I think, but Liesel doesn't really play with any toys anymore. Just a year ago, they were playing with them all the time together. And so for the last 10 years, toys have been this huge thing for Liesel, this really imaginative play. It was a huge part of her life, and something I never had, but that's something she gets from Dominica. Dominica did that, and Dominica still has toys, She-Ra stuff and whatever that she played with when she was young. I don't have anything like that. Even when I was 5, I didn't have anything like that. I'm sure when I was younger, I had a little bit, but I never had someone to play with, so that takes a lot of it away. But even on my own, I never played with that kind of stuff. Like, it just wasn't a part of my life. It's something my brain doesn't do. But Liesel and Luciana together, but Liesel, I think especially, extremely into imaginative play, and things like Playmobil were enormous for her. There was always this massive piece of her life, and I was always surprised by how old she was and still really enjoyed them. She loved setting them all up and making big play sets and scenarios, and for hours be just completely engrossed in all the things going on. And somewhere about a year ago, that just snapped and is over. And she hasn't taken out toys like that in so long now. It's just weird. And I think Luciana was really doing it a lot because of Liesel. I think Liesel actually was so much more into it that when she was done, Luciana was almost done. And so, Luciana still looks at Playmobil and Calico Critters, and I think she's like, oh, I'd kind of like to maybe, but really she's just into the Legos. She's much more into the building things and art, and non-play items. That it's, in some ways that's good, but in other ways it's just very sad. This unbelievably big part of our children's lives are over, right? There's no more toys at this point, really. And the thought when we put them out in the garage was, okay, we're going to put them in these plastic bins. We're going to make them really easy to identify. And anytime the girls want to play with, and they'll just name off the toy set, right? Oh, you want Playmobil? Oh, you want Play-Doh? Oh, you want Legos? Oh, you want whatever, Calico Critters? Let's go get it, bring it down. Here's all of it. Go crazy. And then we'll put it all back up and take it back up again. And there's still some funny things, like they've got this cash register that's meant for like 3-4-year-olds, and neither of them is willing to give that up. They don't actually play with it, but they're not willing to give it up. Some of that stuff they're still very connected to, and I'm sure they wouldn't want to give away the Playmobil. That's why we're storing it. But it's the reality is none of that's ever going to be played with again. That is all ended. And the same thing at my dad's house. He had all these toys that they used to get to his house, run to the cupboard, open it up, pull out those toys, and it was just, they would play. And those are the toys they played with there. That doesn't happen anymore, and it's not going to happen again. That era has ended. And that I find very sad, because it was just such a cool part of their lives. And obviously I miss my kids being little, and them growing up is very sad. So this was kind of a emotional day, right? Seeing my own, not childhood, but very young life being put into storage, knowing that it's been in storage for 20 years and it's never coming out, right? You kind of cling to this. No, that part of my life isn't over. It is, right? And you cling to, oh, no, my kids don't play as much, but it's not over, but it is. So that was the day. Several hours of that stuff today, and digging through my own, our Commodore Amiga 1000, my first computer that I got in 1987. When I was 11, so I was Liesel's age. That went up into storage today, and I'm glad I still have it, and it means a lot to me that it's still here. But I'm never going to set it up. I'm never going to play the video games on those floppies again. I might play them on an emulator, maybe someday, just to be nostalgic. I've done that once or twice over the years for a tiny bit, but that's about it, right? I'm never going to set it up and actually play it. I'm never going to. There's a whole bunch of things I'm never going to do. And so I have to pause this.